You are listening to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guest and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is Ari Magalhaes. Ari is a senior economist and business strategist with over a decade of experience providing management solutions in the face of rapidly evolving markets. Providing solutions in strategy, innovation, financial performance, and risk management, she has been involved in delivering over $100 million of bottom line results across various industries. With significant international experience throughout Europe, Latin America, and Oceania, she speaks 6 languages and holds a double degree master's in international management and a bachelor of economics. She's also a community advisory board member at Red Nose Australia. Today, we're talking about leveraging AI to deliver better services. Ari, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Richard. It's great to be here.
Great to have you here. Well, Ari, as I always like to ask my guests, first of all, where in the world are you?
I am currently in Hobart, Tasmania.
All right, okay.
In the south of Australia. Lovely. Not as hot as people would expect. It's actually quite cold at the moment.
I have been there many times, and I understand it's a cold place.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into the questions for today. But before we actually do, you have this amazing bio, and I missed quite a few things off. Otherwise, we would have been here all day. Is there anything really important that you wish I'd have added to the bio to start off with today?
No, I think you did a really good job, Richard. Thank you.
As I say, you've got this amazing bio, and if anybody looks Ari up, you'll see that she does truly astonishing things. Okay, so let's get straight into this. What are the better services that you're referring to that use AI to deliver them, and how?
So I've started once I first heard about ChatGPT. I thought I'd give it a try, and I started trying to understand. So at the time, I was rebranding my business. So I wanted to get to. I was trying to brainstorm a few things. So trying to figure out um, how to articulate these new services I was delivering, how to flesh out what delivers, what has the most value to my clients, and what's the best way to deliver them. And I started using ChatGPT and having a little chat, a little interaction, and I realized that it was an extremely powerful tool. So how I actually started using was to get it to brainstorm and come up with designing these services. What I did was provide as an input a lot of the learnings I had from previous projects, a lot of the what have we delivered, what have been the challenges, what are my clients seeking, and AI, or in this case ChatGPT, specifically help me develop them.
So ChatGPT is the service that most people know, and we've already got a video up there talking about it on the AI Advantage show. The question for me is, how long did it take you to get to the point where you felt comfortable with what ChatGPT was producing?
I would say, in terms of I would say took me about a month, but really I was using very intensely. And what I did is I realized that it didn't always give me the answer I was looking for. So I started looking into prompts, how to better talk to that tool in a way that it actually it delivers a better result, or better something that's more aligned with what you're looking for. So lots of interaction. So I remember for quite a few months I've had even now I have the window open, and so I keep practicing. And I would say that I'm comfortable, but I know there's still a lot I can still do a lot more with it.
Can you give us an example of where you've had a prompt where it hasn't worked well and you've gone, oh wow, that looks good, but when you've done further research, it hasn't been so good? And one of the tips maybe that you can pass on to our listeners about how to create a good prompt.
Yes. So one of the things, so I was working with a client in the timber industry, and specifically I was looking at um, how to create biomass, so biomass products, which is a secondary product for that client or for that industry, that it actually it drives. So it's a source of renewable energy. So what I was trying to get ChatGPT to support me with is trying to find out a bit more about that industry in Australia. So I asked a few questions, gave a bit of background, and said, this is what I have. For example, RENA has publications, so the Agency for Renewable Energy, the Australian agency, and it gave me, so ChatGPT gave me the name of a study that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is quite scary. I've heard quite a few people say that it has hallucinated.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. They call it hallucination. So I think, and that is, so my tip is always, it is a tool, but it shouldn't be used as the outcome, as the complete, you copy paste and that's it, and you believe everything it says. You should always double check everything that it says. You should always review. It is, see it as a tool, like you use Microsoft Office, Excel, Word, and any other tool to as something that will help you get to reach a result. Not necessarily will give you exactly what you need, and you should believe 100% of what it says.
So what is the approach you use to create a good prompt? How do you structure the language that you put into there?
So a good prompt includes first giving a context. So starting with before you get to the question, you say, this is what I'm working through. This is what I'm working through at the moment. So for example, in that case, I said, I'm currently working with a client in the timber industry, and they are looking into developing biomass products. This is where they're located, in this area in Australia. They're looking specifically at this product and that product. So that was the context. The second step is, can you please help me identify sources to have. So basically, I gave them gave ChatGPT the context, asked the question, and then said how I was going to use it. How did I expect the output to be structured? So I said, I would like a source. I would like, this is how I use it, and so that will help structure, give a context. Otherwise, if you don't give that context or that explanation around it, it might give you something that is not aligned with what you're expecting.
So it's not a case of just typing in one or two lines and saying, give me a report about biomass for Tasmania. You actually have to be very careful in how you structure that initial prompt to get what you want.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And one other tip I actually read recently, I think it's, as you know, not only AI, but all technologies move fast. So you have to keep up to date. And of course, it's extremely recent. So one of the tips I read recently was regarding prompts was when you're talking, before you ask ChatGPT questions, say, act as if. So act as if your admin support, act as if you're a business researcher, act as if you're a potential client. So that will help. That's a simple way of getting ChatGPT to see that question in the way you expect it to.
So to be clear for our listeners, what I'm hearing you say there is you actually tell it the style of personality that you want it to give you an answer as.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And have you tried any other comparable tools, for instance, Bard from Google?
I have tried Bard. I had both tools open at the same time for a couple of weeks. So I would ask ChatGPT a question, and was that as Bard the same question? And I must say that I decided to stick with ChatGPT. And I have also used writing.io. So that's a really interesting tool. So that's specifically, so one of the other ways I use ChatGPT is to help me write articles or write posts. So I'll say, these are the points I want to make. This is in this context. So I might have read an article and I want to talk a bit about it. Or I want to make this point or that point. So I'll ask ChatGPT to help. But I found this other tool that also uses AI, and it's quite interesting. And it has built prompts so which makes life easier as well.
So let me make sure I got that right. You actually use another AI to build prompts for an AI.
Yes, there is a there is an AI that builds prompts. So there's an AI that helps you use AI, an AI
So what
tool.
was and that one's called again?
So there's writing.io
Okay.
that is it's in itself, it has something similar to ChatGPT, and it's layered with another tool, but that one is only for writing articles. Now, what you're talking about an AI that helps you with AI, there's actually a tool called Prompt Storm. So that tool, it's a plugin, and you will, when you open any of these tools, Bard or ChatGPT or
Mm-hmm.
others, you can click on it, and it will help you write a prompt. So it will help you communicate with your with your friend AI tool.
With your friendly AI, yeah. I mean, one of the as you rightly said, technology is constantly evolving. You're trying different tools. One of the differences that I found, for instance, between Bard and ChatGPT is I can ask Bard to give me references, and it will show you the links to articles that it's got information from, even photos at times. So there does seem to be a bit of a leapfrog arms race between at least those two. And then we have lots of other tools like Llama 2 coming out, etc. So it's definitely a good thing to keep trying them, and don't just stick with one particular service. To keep trying different things and see where that evolution is going.
Yes, absolutely. As both the organizations working on AI, they keep issuing new releases and working on improvements, constant feedback, lots of iterations. So I would expect, we don't know how it's going to look like. It's changed massively.
Mhm.
Each release has um, new tool. I mean,
It,
new ways it works better. It's just
yeah,
working better, and it's working different ways. We're all learning.
yeah, we are all learning, including the organizations that are producing the AI models themselves. So, how much time would you say using AI is saving you? How has it changed the style of work that you're doing?
I would say that for certain tasks, it has saved me. Maybe I now spend around 10 to 20% of the time I would spend on a given task, as it will do a lot of the work, and particularly
Mhm.
with like I said, designing the services, or
Mhm.
certain services, or trying to get some additional information. So a ChatGPT will do that data research, will do that research for me, something that usually would take me several hours. So I'll take that, and I'll drill down a little bit into what I think is relevant for the client or relevant for my business. And it has increased my efficiency, yeah, significantly. Yeah.
So that goes back to the better services. So you've saved that 80% that we've talked about there. And rather than just leaving it at the level that you would have done, you actually make the end product better. So, how much of that time that you've saved you spend? I mean, overall, you have more time now as a result of what you're doing. Do you use that to do more work, or refine the work that you're doing? Or do you use it just so you've got maybe a bit more downtime?
I've been using the work to do to so what I've been doing a lot is now that I don't use it for downtime, to be honest. I use it to keep working, to do more, to deliver more.
Hmm.
In some cases, with the client, I will. So let's say I have dedicated, I have some time on my day where I work on the defined project. So because AI has saved me time, and because they have provided me certain information, and like I said, I will say, oh, there's this element or that element that I think will be particularly helpful for the client. So I'll drill down. So I'll spend that extra time drilling down and trying to create more value to the client. So yeah.
Hmm. So the unique factors that you bring to delivering the end product, you've got more time to apply that.
Exactly. And I think and one thing that, of course, lots of people are with there's new technology, it's uncertain, we don't know what's going to happen, but
Mhm.
it has happened before. It has happened several times before. And being an economist, I have to mention Schumpeter. So he talked about the theory of creative destruction. So what happens is something new comes in, so technology comes in, and a lot, and it creates a lot, but it creates a lot of value, but it destroys value. So when you think of computers, so in the past you have to handwrite things, you had to do manual
Mhm.
research, you had the filing cabinets, etc. So you have had, so the fact that computers are now dominating, right, and they're common, and so we don't realize what a massive impact, or it might, but we don't reflect on the massive impact it has had on various industries. And this will happen again. This is happening again, and it's just part of that creative destruction. But what we have seen over time with the industrial revolutions is that disruption overall creates significantly more value to society and to the economy than that previous technology. So I'm very much an advocate of AI, and I think we should embrace it.
That's great to hear. So, just touching on the negative for a moment, which is not something I like to do, but what is the mood in your industry and the industries that you've talked to? Because there is a lot of people saying, "Oh, AI is going to take all of our jobs," but I personally think that it's going to create more jobs than it takes away. So, what's the sort of trend that you're seeing? What's the sort of feedback you've had from your customers?
A lot of people are, they are worried, saying, "No, there's something that I used to be engaged on to deliver that will now be delivered by AI." Well, for example, this will happen in some sense, and there is some resistance, but overall, I see a lot of embracing. So a lot of so you have, for example, KPMG developing a partnership with Microsoft to
Mhm.
develop an AI tool. um, you have other consultancy companies also formally embracing it and investing actively. So I think, and it comes back to what we were both saying, that it is, we believe will be positive. But the thing is that for it to be effectively positive, you have to have a really good understanding of it, have a really good understanding of it, use it,
Mhm.
test it, and so you're better aware of how it will impact you, your job, your company, etc., and how you can adapt, or how you can shift what you're doing to better meet future the demand, or the future market, that the market that will how the market will look like in a few years, when AI becomes more common, even more common than it is now.
So, when
More,
AI becomes second nature, you think
yes,
that we're obviously not there yet,
no.
because people are still concerned. I mean, is there anybody, or sorry, I shouldn't say anybody, but is there any examples of significant resistance you run into when you said, "Hey, we could use AI to do this"?
Yes, there is the one interesting. I was talking to a colleague in the education industry, and so they manage various schools, and what they were saying is that there is a concern on how students have been using AI.
Mhm.
Sometimes they've been using AI um, to write their papers for school, or to review their responses, or to write responses for them. So there's a big concern on how this will impact learning. And not only the student is cheating, or the student is not doing their job, but really it impacts their learning, because at that you're asked to answer a question or to write a paper so you can learn. And if you use AI, you're not doing that, or you might be doing it. And so the question is, you might be doing that a different way. So how do we approach that? Do we just say it's not allowed, or do
Mhm.
we define right policy? So I think the initial what I understand in that area by talking to my colleagues, that there's a lot of resistance.
So, does that mean that maybe the final exam, where you have to be there and then and answering questions, is going to become more important than it is now?
It might be, but again, what we're thinking, if we think of the final exam, is that you you're assuming that is an accurate reflection of everything that the person has learned. But there's a lot that there are a lot of skills that you build when you're learning, when you're going through these exercises that might not be necessarily captured by the final exam. So I think it will remain important. It might become more important. I'm not sure, but I think it's an example of how we have to be aware of that impact will have. Not only not even talking about the industry or anything, we're talking about people's development, kids' developments.
So that's really interesting. On the human development side, I'll give you a very simple example. I would argue that it's less likely that somebody can read a traditional map now than they could before. Okay, because we are now use GPS, and people used to read paper maps to get to places, and so the ability to read that map has dwindled, I would argue. What skills do you think AI could cause to dwindle?
I believe there's already a challenge now with the information overload, and so we have not been paying attention, or we've been, because we have all this information, we have become a bit alienated, and not, we don't take our time to sit, not in general, we don't, but many people, or many of us, have an issue with, like, our attention span. So I think this might increase that problem, or of being willing to, or having that ability to sit down and do in-depth research and take your time to read a book, etc., or to understand something, because you have a tool that will do that for you.
So it becomes much more of the moment. So rather than developing those skills over potentially years, it might be a case of, hey, I need to learn this thing really quickly and not worry about the actual foundations of how I create this ability.
Yeah, and even talking about languages, I'm passionate about languages, and of course now you have tools that you have instant translation. You can get everything translated. You can talk into a phone, and the phone will translate it for you, and talk for you in whatever language you want. But for me, the main thing about languages, more than communication, is having access to a certain culture. So when you speak a language, you can read the books, you can better explore the country's literature, the country's customs, the country's stories. And if you only think of learning languages as, oh yeah, I want to communicate, but there's a tool, there's technology can do that for me, but well, you might be missing out on everything else that comes with learning a language.
So there's that indistinguishable human factor that we're talking about here that AI can never reproduce. If you're going to learn a language, to go to the country where that language is from and really immerse yourself in the culture, AI can never ever replace that.
Exactly.
Of course. So can you give me any good examples of where you've seen AI used?
There are, I think there are a few different. I mean, now you see it everywhere, really. You see it's very widespread, and I think even the development of these tools, the development of ChatGPT itself, or like I mentioned, writing AO, it gives you the ability, right? So this writing.io, it gives you the ability to write an article, and that is actually, so AI enhances it. So I think that the most, rather than a now, a product itself, or something that I've seen of, is what I'm interested in at the moment, is that those tools and how they can add value to so many people and so many professionals.
Understood. Understood. So, Ari, what's that one piece of advice that you wish you'd had when you were starting out on this journey of using AI that our listeners could take on board?
I would say try to understand better understand its uses, its applicability. That's what I would have done, try to better understand how it can be used, because I would have started much earlier, or could have started this much better. Yeah, I would say, yeah, understand what can be used, and also have a look at what's out there. Now, we talked a lot about ChatGPT, but there are so many other tools out there.
Lots of other tools, yeah.
Have a look and see what will be best for you, what will work better for you.
One more question there then. Is there anything you think that AI isn't good at?
That human element is that understanding that side, that human side, so that so it can write an article, but it won't have that tone, it would have that intention behind it that that we have when we write as humans.
Totally get it. Totally get it. So, Ari, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn, Ari Magalhaes. They can also find me on my website, on my business website, www.omnistrategic.com.au, or they can send me an email at ari@omnistrategic.com.au.
Ari, thank you for that, and thank you for your time today. It's been a really fascinating interview.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage show. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at aiadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.